Matt, thank you for joining me today on Press Day.
Hey Elias, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Good. Can't complain. Exciting times. We got the Dynasty of New England Patriots premiering on Apple TV Plus February 16th. I'm a diehard Patriots fan. What a run for those last 20 years we had.
Well, I can't say we. I did not grow up a Patriots fan, so but yes, it's an incredible story.
So, what drew you to this project and to jump into this story for the New England Patriots dynasty?
So I had been working on a documentary called Tiger about the golfer Tiger Woods for HBO, and Jeff Benedict, who had written the book that had inspired that series, was just wrapping up writing the Dynasty, and he came to me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing this?" And I said, "Sure." And I think you know, the opportunity to tell a story about a team that in from the outside looking in at least had, always sort of kept everybody at arm's length, right? They're, what you're used to sort of seeing is the Bill Belichick press conferences, and you really
Right.
didn't know that much about the team and the ability to actually talk to the, 70 plus players, coaches, executives, league officials, and rivals was just the thing that drew me in. And to try to tell a story that would be something that diehard Patriot fans would love, but also something that people who don't watch football would all love at the same time.
Mm. What's great about this story too is like, what did you find most intriguing and compelling about this 20-year run?
I think that it's really human beings at the core of this story, right? It's characters. It's not
Mm,
necessarily about the football. It's a story that starts out about sort of the underdogs of the NFL, a team that had
yeah.
never, had not really won a Super Bowl before, and these three people who were outsiders who come together, and Robert Kraft, who wasn't a billionaire at the time, who could just write a check and buy a team. He had to leverage a lot, and he had to sort of
Yeah.
sneak his way into the NFL in order to do it through, starts with the parking lot, and then eventually he gets to the point where he can actually get the team. You get Bill Belichick, who obviously had a lot of success as a defensive coordinator for the Giants and at one point for the Patriots, but as Jackie Mack, one of the journalists in the series says, he has had a bit of an underwhelming stint as a head coach in Cleveland. So these were all outsiders, right? Who, you know, had a lot to prove, and they created a culture of selflessness and team first and all of these things that led to basically, one Super Bowl, but then very quickly 3 and 4 years. And I describe it like almost like you're on at the beginning of a roller coaster ride and you're slowly getting like pulled up by that chain that gets you to the top, to the top, to the top. And
Right.
that's what those first three Super Bowls are. And just when you're at the top of that and you're peering over the edge, all of a sudden, everybody that's watching that isn't a New England Patriots fan that says, huh, I'm not sure if I like how much these guys are winning. And then, the Spygate scandal happens, and then all of a sudden the team that was the little engine that could is starting to be called the Evil Empire.
Mm,
And they then start to have to deal with a whole host of really complicated things, but really human things like betrayal and facing one's mortality and you know all sorts of different stuff. And then at the end of this incredible 20-year run, this team that whose original success was founded on the idea of selflessness and pushing aside sort of the normal trappings of being a human being,
yeah.
you know, the inevitable sort of happens, and ego and all these other things start finding their way in. And that seems to be, according to the people who were there, in a lot of ways, the thing that sort of starts to unravel the dynasty.
Mm. What do you think it was like the biggest challenge try to document a 20-year run?
Well, we've talked about talking to all the people a little bit, right?
Yeah.
That was a big part of it. The other part was the 35 plus thousand hours of archival footage that we had access to, much of which had never been seen before, right?
Mm,
So that was, just the effort of trying to get through that material
Mm,
and find out where the buried treasure was. And then how do we use that to elucidate what's being said in the interview chair? But I think it gives the audience an incredible opportunity here. If you're a diehard Patriot fan, or if you don't know anything about the team, look, if you're a diehard Patriots fan, you may have heard about Spygate, but
yeah.
Bill never talked about it. And
Mm,
instead, now you get to see us talk to all these people about it, but then you also get to go inside the locker room and witness them that season go from the scandal, and then all of a sudden the evil empire is on this undefeated run in the 2007 season. And one of the editors described it like you're on the Death Star with the evil empire as they go from planet to planet, destroying
yeah.
everybody in their path. But instead of it being sort of sullen and I guess Darth Vader like, they're having a party as they're doing it. And just when you think they're about to do the unthinkable and go undefeated and win the Super Bowl, they sort of face this incredible humbling moment when they lose to the Giants. And so there's all these sort of incredible things that you get to witness happening. And I sort of call it, it's sort of like, to me, it's like Shakespeare, but with footballs.
Mm. You mentioned Spygate and everything. The Patriots dynasty, they've been celebrated by the fans. Have also we've been criticized. The team
Mm.
has been criticized and everything. How do you navigate now, like portraying both triumphs and controversies with this team in this documentary?
Yeah, I think it happens naturally when you get to talk to the people who are actually there, right?
Mm,
Because you're not coming in and you're saying, here's this preconceived notion of how I want to cover this. I want to cover them as villains, or I want to cover them as heroes. I think when you talk to the humans that were actually there, the complexity and the nuance that you sort of hope for whenever you're telling a story naturally just happens. And um, because for them it was complicated, right? And you go through this process of listening and then letting them sort of tell you what it was like to be in those rooms when they found great success, but also be in those rooms when they started to see this thing come to an end.
mm. Could you share any like behind the scenes that moments that during the filming process that you enjoyed certain aspects of this dynasty?
I mean, there were so many different things. I'll never forget to this day. You know, we finally, after a year plus, got to interview Tom Brady, and I still remember thinking to myself, okay, so he's going to show up, and he's going to have a PR person, he's going to have hair, he's going to have makeup, he's going to have like 20 different people,
Uh,
and every time I ask a question, somebody's going to try to walk in and say, yeah, but you can't ask it that way. You have to, and the opposite was the case. He pulled up to the studio in a car by himself, got out and just said, "Where do you want me to be?" And then that was it. And it was ask any question, go to any topic, anything you want. And I think basically that was the case for everybody that was involved. And so each time it was just great to create an environment where we could just have a conversation, just talk about things and say, well, one of your teammates mentioned this story. How do you feel about that? And then they would take that and they would have a different spin on it. And I think that was the other thing that was really important to us was we didn't want to just allow there to be one narrative of each of these really important topics, especially something like the way that this thing unraveled, right?
mm,
What I think all of the people on the team that helped me make this thing, what we all cared about was making sure that you could come away from this and you could say, well, I understand why Bill did what he did. I understand why Tom did what he did. I understand why Robert did what he did. And I also understand why the other 60 people that we get to talk to felt the way that they did and did the things that they did. And I think
mm,
again, this just comes back to being able to tell this really nuanced and complex story.
mm. You mentioned the team that you worked with, Brian and Jeff. How was it collaborating with these two?
Just incredible. I mean, Brian Grazer is one of the most sort of prolific uh, producers in Hollywood history and has made some of the movies that made me want to be a filmmaker in the first place. So just to be
Mm,
able to like be in the same room and talk to him about like what I was thinking and what I was starting to see as we talked to these people was great. And then with Jeff, I mean, I had worked with Jeff on Tiger, the series that I had done before this one. And I think that the same applies to that one, but really with Jeff, I think a lot of it was he had built up so much trust within the building and within a few of the people that we ended up talking to. And it just made it easier to start those conversations and also make it easier for people to kind of let us go and just do what we wanted to do and know that we were going to tell, like I said, an unvarnished, an unvarnished telling of the New England Patriots, but also one that had a lot of complexity and nuance to it as well.
Mm. Is there a favorite moment of the documentary or episode for a Patriots fan that you can't wait for them to watch?
Oh, for a Patriots fan, I'm not sure. I think one of my favorite moments is the beginning of episode 4. Look, I always like to surprise people and take them on a journey, kind of similar to the way that it was for me to be able to make this thing. And we have the New Jersey State Police officer who confiscated the actual camera and tape
Mm,
from the Patriots in that Jets game. And that in itself is a get, but just the way that that story unfolds and how you're sort of watching this thing. And I think, what I loved about the way that the editors put it together was kind of like, wait, am I still watching this football movie, or is this
mm,
something that's different and sort of, anyway, so I loved that. There were countless things though that really, were so much fun for me, from like the conversation with Bill Belichick and Randy Moss when they're first meeting to, you know, just I don't know, like I said, being able to be there in the room with these people and hear their sides of it for the first time. So it's hard for me to pick.
amazing. So, Dynasty, New England Patriots, Apple TV Plus. Matt, I want to thank you for giving me a few minutes today.
Oh, sorry, say it again.
Oh, I said I wanted to thank you for giving me a few minutes today. This was
Oh
great.
no, thank you so much for having me. I
Yeah.
appreciate